Well, no, it isn't Spain or Portugal. It is, in fact, Western Scotland. To be precise, it's near the village of Cannock, southwest of Inverness, about approximately 26 miles to the southwest of Inverness. A massive wildfire has broken out, and I believe, anyway, that it is possible that this could be on par with one of the largest wildfires in UK recorded history, large enough that it could be seen from space. And you can see this satellite image captured from either yesterday or the day before, showing the burn area near the village of Cannock, near Glenafric, and to the west of Loch Ness. So, of course, very, very dry conditions has allowed what is likely to be a spark, maybe a burning ember or whatever from a barbecue. Of course, we are now increasing the tourist traffic in this region of the world. And of course, people with campfires, barbecues, advised not to light fires if possible. And of course, with the very, very dry ground, thanks to a lack of rainfall, this has sparked a rather major incident in the Cannock area. Very, very remote part of the country, hilly terrain, a lot of vegetation, of course, now, especially at this time of the year, making it very, very difficult for firefighters to get this rather large blaze under control. I believe it's something like 24 square miles of wildfire. So a large wildfire, that's for sure, and it's testament to the lack of rainfall that we've seen across particularly the northern half of the British Isles. Yes, we've had a wetter than average spring across the bulk of England, Wales, as well as Ireland, I believe, as well. But further north, due to the mean ridge being positioned further north, we've had drier conditions up here across the northern half of Scotland. Less so, of course, the further south you go. So, I believe it is now under control, but firefighters are still having to tackle this blaze at the moment here. A very cool start to summer 2023. Welcome to meteorological summer 2023. The warmest conditions confined to the western side of Ireland, as you can see here, western Northern Ireland, into the low to mid 20s as well. But down that eastern side of Scotland and England, very cool. A very slow burn off of Har during the overnight period and through a good part of this morning. There was no sunshine and the temperatures were very subdued for the time of the year. And even now, yes, we have got sunshine now. The Har has now burnt back to the coast anyway in several spots, but we're still stuck at 10 at only 12 Celsius. We're only at 10 Celsius in Wick with a wind chill of 7.8 Celsius. Even at in parts of Yorkshire, wind chill of 7, a temperature of 10 Celsius. But even in what you would expect to be the more typical warm spots of western areas, temperatures are only at 20 Celsius. At Tulloch Bridge, we've only got 21 Celsius on the west coast of Wales here. So nothing to write home about in terms of warm temperatures. And I don't think we're going to get any major warmth anytime soon, folks. The reason why I say that is because we're actually in a phase 8 and into one of the Madden Julian oscillation. Now, of course, this in the winter time is cold phases. This is what we've seen back at the beginning of December when we had, of course, the cold December last year. And indeed, this is also a favourable phase for early season tropical development in the Atlantic. Lucifer, we've got a feature in the Gulf of Mexico that we're having to keep an eye on at the moment here. But we've got that kind of northern blocking with troughiness underneath. And of course, we've got all the heavy rainfall across the Mediterranean, Iberia, and whatnot. And we certainly have got a fairly fresh start to the summer, meteorological summer anyway, that's for sure, because of the position of high pressure that is to the west-northwest of the UK. And if it stays there, and it looks as if the models are keeping it there for certainly the next 10 days or so, we're not going to tap anything particularly warm. We're going to actually have more likelihood of intrusions of cooler air coming in around the top of that area of high pressure from a more northerly direction. So let's have a look at the rainfall over the next a couple of weeks. This is off the GFS weathercharts.com. Total accumulated precipitation. You can see here, of course, no surprise, a real lack of moisture across the UK and Ireland. But look at Southern Europe, Eastern Europe. We continue to see the showers and the thunderstorms with that trough trapped, stuck beneath that ridge of high pressure that's been anchored over the northern half of Europe for the best part of a month, really. And you can see here as we continue to play through, this is into the middle portion of next week. Notice here that a large swathe of the UK sees literally no rain between now, Thursday, through the weekend and into at least the early portion of next week. And then it looks as if the models are hinting at something a little bit more showery developing across particularly the western side of the Republic, Northern Ireland, and indeed Scotland. Notice here England and Wales doesn't see much in the way of rainfall, even right up until nearly day 10 of June. Again, look at the totals across the south. But notice here something, right? This is off the GFS deterministic, of course. So this is one model run. It's not, an ensemble where you've got multiple runs merged together to give a better trend. But technically speaking, we are really getting the same idea, whether it be with the ensemble or whether it be the operational. But notice something here. Notice how the GFS and indeed the ECMWF is pushing that area of moisture northwards as we get to about day 10 of June. And then as we progress into the middle portion of the month, it looks as if high pressure is going to kind of loosen its grip and allow lower pressure to start having more influence. And then we're increasing the rainfall across Ireland and the British Isles here. So that's very interesting to see, of course. Arctic oscillation. I would like to know when the last time we've had such a strong negative NAO, AO to start the summer months here. So this is the Arctic oscillation. This is the North Atlantic oscillation, firmly back into negative territory as opposed to being very strongly positive. Probably a response to the Madden-Julian oscillation, but it has been pretty much a mainstay in the pattern during the second half of the spring season. And indeed, if we look at the GFS, let's have a look at the ECMWF first, right? And this is the 850 temperature, so this gives you a good idea as to what type of air mass we're talking about. And if you notice here that as we play through this loop, of course, this is the UK. We're in a modestly milder, but nothing majorly warm. We've got quite a lot of influence coming in off the North Sea at the moment. High pressure centred to the northwest of the UK. We've got a fairly squeezed isobar setup. So we've got fairly brisk winds coming in from the northeast. We're having quite a significant amount of intrusion of that marine layer, that cloud deck. Of course, as the land cools down, that cool air from over the oceans and water, it tends to then get pushed inland. It's once you start to warm the landmass up, once the sun comes up, that's when that that cloud tends to peel back to the coastline where the colder waters are. So you've got this fluctuation between day and night, warming of the land, you get the retreat of the the cloud cover, the fog and whatnot. Then, of course, as the land cools after sunset, then in comes that marine layer once again, that intrusion of fog, cloud cover. But with a relatively cool air mass aloft, we're seeing quite a slow burn off of that har. So therefore the temperatures are really taking a little bit of time to try and warm things up. But we are seeing a little bit of drier air moving into the UK, so we should start to lose that lingering har, fog, cloud cover, whatever description you want to put on it. We should start to see a little bit more in the way of sunnier skies, especially across the bulk of the Midlands and Eastern England, Southeastern England, where that kind of cloud cover has been quite slow to clear in recent days, And it's all because of the position of the high quite far to the northwest, that fetch of northeasterly winds keeping things rather fresh, rather cool. But if you notice here as we play through this loop, you notice here that we start to see that yellow color, that 10 Celsius isotherm at 5,000 feet starts to get pushed back to the south and southwest. And you notice here that we've got slightly fresher air at 850 coming back into play once again. And with the area of high pressure kind of staying slightly to the northwest of the UK, we've got colder air coming around the top of that high and may try to push southwards over the British Isles as we progress towards the latter half of the upcoming weekend and in the next week here. And then eventually what the model has is we may have yet again this battle between cold trying to come south, warm trying to lift northwards here. What wins out remains to be seen. If we look at the GFS, you get the same idea really overall. Let's have a look at the GFS. Get back to the current setup. You can see here that that yellows, that milder air starts to get pushed back south once again. Core that high, the key of that is staying to the northwest, so therefore we've got that fresher air coming in on the eastern flank of the high. A little bit of milder air tries to mix in. Then there's a little flirt with something a little bit colder coming in from the north. But all the while, notice here over southwestern Europe, we're starting to warm the air mass up, and that may try to lift northwards. Remember what I showed you with the moisture starting to come north, with warmer, more humid air trying to lift north up towards the UK. We're increasing that chance of shower and thunderstorm activity, but we're also importing something a little bit warmer from the south here. So it's all to play for, but certainly over the next 10 days, I wouldn't expect much in the way of any real warmth. But remember what the June forecast says, remember what the summer forecast says. I think we're starting to see an uptick in temperature through the second half of the month, but we also increase that chance of seeing more in the way of precipitation and more unsettled conditions here. So finally, I almost forgot, let's have a quick look at the ECMWF Weeklies here. So this is the Northern Hemisphere view, and you get a better idea as to the hemispheric pattern setup here. So at the moment we've got that ridge centered just to the west of the British Isles here. So therefore that kind of keeps a lid on the temperature. Nothing outrageously warm. If the high was further across the top of the UK, we would see warmer temperatures. If it was to the east of the UK, we would see even warmer temperatures because the winds would start to come around the base of the high, out of the Mediterranean, up through Spain, France, and into the British Isles. But we're not seeing that. It's in the wrong position to allow any major warmth to develop here. But notice here as we play through the weeklies. So this is the 500 millibar geopotential heights, the anomaly. You notice here that the high is backing slightly more towards the North Atlantic here. So therefore we maintain this tempered regime in terms of warming through the middle portion of the month here. Notice here the negative extending from North America underneath and into the southwest of Europe. So therefore we're going to continue to keep things rather unsettled underneath and across southern portions of Europe here. So all the while, very interesting stuff indeed. It looks as if even during the second half of the month, 13th through the 20th of June, the ECMWF Weeklies has that mean ridge. So it's not day to day, but it's the means overall. We'll have that ridge centered over the North Atlantic and Greenland. That is not an overly warm setup. So yeah, interesting stuff. Hope you enjoyed the video today. Please like, share, and subscribe as always. And I'll try to be back again tomorrow with more. Do check out all the content, marphoneweather.com, of course. June forecast has been released yesterday. The summer forecast is there for you to look at as well. So plenty of content for you to look at. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and I'll hopefully be back again tomorrow with more. Bye.